Welcome to the NWR Aussie Resources Conference. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Next up, we have Legacy Minerals. The ASX code is LGM. Presenting today is Chris Byrne, Managing Director. Now, before we get started, for those that are on the call already, please note if you have questions for Chris, pop them in the Q&A chat bar on the bottom, and I will endeavour to ask them of Chris on your behalf at the end of the presentation. Chris, over to you. I'm very excited about this. Lachlan Fold Belt in New South Wales. You've been there since about 5 years, I think it is now, but really ramping up drilling, I think, at this stage. So I'm excited to hear what the progress has been.
Yeah, and thanks for having us on today, Kerry, and for hosting, and NWR as well. Yeah, we're a gold copper focused exploration company. In terms of Aussie explorer, all our tenements are based in New South Wales in the Lachlan Fold Belt. So fantastic, prolific exploration and mining district, one of the best in Australia. And we're very excited around our package of predominantly gold copper focused projects, but there's a real swathe of metals that sit across a very diverse portfolio. So looking forward to running through them today. Disclaimer: this presentation was just put out up on the ASX, so please feel free to read that in due course. So why Legacy Minerals? As a bit of an introduction to the value proposition for the company. As Kerry mentioned, we started this company in 2017, and we've slowly been building a package of portfolio of fantastic tenements that really gives us, at this point, almost 12 months after listing, immediate copper gold discovery exposure. In particular, I'll talk about BAULOORA, which is the largest undeveloped, underexplored epithermal system in New South Wales, so low sulfidation. So that's quite a fantastic package of prospects that just keeps growing and growing. We've got our ground out at Cobar. I'll briefly talk through that, as well as ROCKLEY, and that's our a classic porphyry copper gold project. And we've seen just as recently as this week, in the last couple of weeks, magmatic's porphyry success in the district. So it's continuing to showcase the Lachlan Fold Belt as the place to be for copper discovery. As a company, we're value leveraged to exploration success, and we've got 100% ownership over our 6 projects, and that's still including the exploration alliance with this artificial intelligence explorer, Earth AI, thrown in there. Fantastic pipeline of discovery opportunities, and strong news flow over the coming months. Kerry mentioned drilling. We're expecting to ramp up drilling at BAULOORA, get back in there from November, and really following up some of the work we did earlier this year and some of the generative work we've done over the last couple of months. So looking forward to really getting stuck in there with the drill bit. We've got a prime position, high grade and shallow gold, silver and copper targets. So again, we're talking immediate discovery opportunities, and that sort of discovery journey is what we're hoping to be a relatively short one for our shareholders. And what we see with those discovery opportunities is value creation for our shareholders. So with that, I'll sort of introduce, New South Wales as, why are we here and why we sort of stacked our projects in this district. It's well renowned for its endowment, copper and gold. It's home to Australia's largest gold mine at Cadia there. So that's a porphyry copper gold system. There's low to no sovereign risk, so there's secure tenure. There's obviously significant mining infrastructure throughout the district, local workforces, year-round exploration access. So that means for us, very good drilling across all our projects. There's no wet season, dry season. And I talked about that endowment before. It's across the Lachlan Fold Belt there, over 100 million ounces of gold and 20 million tons of copper. So a district which, has shown itself to continually produce discoveries, and those discoveries transition towards mines. So a brief sort of corporate snapshot. I mentioned that we IPO'd in September last year, and we're sort of hovering around the 15-16 cent mark. We've got a very well-balanced and experienced board of directors with Dr. David Carland, Doug Menzies, Matt Rule, and then the management team, myself and Tim Sewell, who sort of round off, I guess, some of the younger faces on the team. So quite an experienced board there. We've got a good cash position as of last quarter, 2.8. And as part of that, cash position as well as that exploration alliance. So that's 2 out of our 6 projects. Earth AI are committing, to drill testing Fontenay and Mulholland. And so that just again provides our shareholders that additional discovery exposure. But at a market cap of $12 million, as I introduce the next project that really underpins the value proposition and the growth potential of the company. So BAULOORA, I mentioned before that it is the largest underexplored low sulfidation epithermal in New South Wales, and that's not an insignificant statement when you consider some of the other big epithermal systems. But what we're really looking at here is a significant district scale ownership by legacy of this very, very underexplored system. There's a map just showing where we're sort of positioned in the Lachlan Fold Belt relative to some of the other big miners and operators out there. And some of the other low sulfidation systems throughout New South Wales include Evolution's Cow Mine, 15 million ounce endowment. You've got Bowden's Silver Mine, which is off the map, but in the still in the Macquarie Arc there. And it's one of the world's largest undeveloped silver deposits, so 275 million ounces silver equivalent. And again, they're growing that resource presently as well. Mineral Hill, owned by Kingston, and BAULOORA. And what we sort of are really liking about BAULOORA is that this size and extent of the gold footprint there. So currently we're looking at a gold zone, 5.5 Ks by 3 kilometers of greater than 0.5 gram gold in rock chips. And so that's important to make that scale comparison when you look at the discovery zone defined by GeoPico at Cow of 7.5 Ks by 2 kilometers of greater than 1 gram, 0.1 gram gold in rock chips. So this is a slide for a lot of the geos out there that really like these rock textures, and you'll see a lot of rocks in our presentations. And if you ever meet us at the various conferences around, we like to bring these rocks out because they really just sort of demonstrate the textures and epithermal systems, low sulfidation systems, all form in a very consistent sort of manner. So it's not uncommon to see these types of rock textures across global deposits and well-known deposits. So your classic coliform crustiform banding there. We've got some very high-grade golds up in our rock chips as well, up to 32 grams gold there, and several hundred grams silver. So very, very high grade. And this is at surface. So this is what's really exciting about it, and a very fun project to be on when you can walk out in the paddock and get these types of rock textures. So we certainly feel that this is prime for a major discovery. We picked up this ground, and we are the first company that's really systematically explored what is the BAULOORA an epithermal district. We've got 330 square kilometers of license, and within that we've got a 42 square kilometer hydrothermal alteration zone. So that's the sort of the footprint of the system. And then within that we've got this 24 square kilometer vein field, so that's low sulfidation textures, and then within that the gold zone. So you can sort of demonstrate just the scale of the system, and we're out there growing that through the work that we're doing at the moment, which is very systematic, widespread geochemical testing. Previously being very untested, only one drill hole every 75 hectares across that vein field. So you're talking very, very underexplored. We're getting high-grade gold at surface in the drilling as well, silver, and importantly for epithermals and low sulfidation systems, which are shallow in placement, is that we're seeing a preserved system here. And that's very, very rare in the context of the Lachlan Fold Belt, which is a very old district. So we're talking rock textures here that are 400 million years old at surface, that look like rocks you'd pick up from your fresher epithermal low sulfidation districts in Indonesia and Japan that are only 400 million years old, 4 million or actively sort of bubbling away. So we're at the perfect sort of point in history that we've exposed, the system's been exposed, but it hasn't weathered away. And to give that scale comparison, I talked about what makes it the potential for a world-class discovery is really this. When you look at the vein field that we've defined, this 24 square kilometer zone and growing, is that globally, that's almost universally, you're not going to find another epithermal system of that sort of scale that doesn't host a significant deposit. So when you look at the grade, when you look at the scale, and you look at the system preservation, that's what really stands BAULOORA out as project that has that world-class potential there. And I've just sort of mapped those surface areas there, and those vein fields from some well-known deposits, Virgingo up in Queensland. You've got Hishikari in Japan as well. And just sort of demonstrates, I guess, that high grade nature and sort of the world-class sort of district scale that we're targeting here. This is again a few more rocks. Just sort of demonstrates the depositional setting for the rocks. So you can look at the different textures of the rocks across the profile of the project. And again, it sort of indicates to us that preservation of the system. We're seeing the right ingredients. We're seeing the high grade gold and silver that you want to see across the project. We drilled the project at the beginning of the year, and we got back some fantastic assays. We're reporting them now in gold equivalents due to some of the really outstanding met recoveries that we've got. But when you're talking 9 meters at 8.4 grams gold equivalent, 3 meters at 7 from relatively shallow intercepts, that's at FELSTEAD. You step it out to some historical drilling at Myanmar, 3 meters at 5.8, and down at the breccias into 6 meters at almost 1 gram. All very, very widespread, and definitely the goal of a legacy moving forward is to really drill test those areas that haven't been tested before, that we've identified in geochemical and geophysical anomalism, and really start to step out and build this sort of, these high grade drill results across the project. I talked about FELSTEAD. That's where we started at the beginning of the year there. On top of that, those high grade hits that we got, excellent metallurgical recoveries. So we're talking rougher concentrate 3, returning almost 99.6% silver, 93% gold, 99% copper, and 99% lead and zinc. So very, very high grade system. And again, showing us, just these classic epithermal textures open to the north-south. And importantly, the drilling here, which has been the focus of most of the historical exploration, covers a fraction of that gold zone. So we're talking less than 2% of that area. Myanmar, this will become, I guess, a key focus for us moving forward. And the reason why is that it's got just incredible scale to it. We're talking a strike length that's over 2 kilometers. Again, more rock chips here, just showing some really high grade gold, silver, and importantly, antimony and mercury. So again, that gives us indications that we're at this high level in the epithermal system, of which they're there's a lot of zonation with these types of deposits. And what we're seeing there is, again, just a classic low sulfidation epithermal system. And, what we've done recently is sort of showcase the fact that the historical drilling hasn't tested some of the high grade zones that exist in the prospect area there. And that's it for BAULOORA. As I said, we're looking forward to get stuck in there on drilling pretty quickly, and then rolling into some pretty extensive RC campaigns next year following up some of the drilling we've got planned for this quarter. But I'll talk about Cobar. Cobar, we've got a fantastic position, like right in the heart of the Cobar Basin. So prolific mining district in New South Wales. It's recently that changed hands, the CSA mine, which is Australia's highest grade copper mine, from Glencore to Metals Acquisition Corp, for a pretty penny at 1.1 billion US. Just sort of, demonstrates the value that the majors see in this district. And we've really got a fantastic position in there amongst some pretty big companies. And it definitely underpins the value growth I talk about, with legacy. When you look at a market cap of 12 million, and some of the untested anomalies that we have out on the tenement there, they sort of demonstrate that discovery potential. What we're seeing here is, structural complexity. We're sort of downstrike of the Mert fault, which runs past the CSA mine. And we've got several late time AM conductors, which present potential bedrock anomalies. They're untested. We've got gold in lag around the Yarrawonga prospect, again, untested. And most Cobar discoveries are associated with some sort of lag anomalism. So highly encouraging. And we've got active work programs out there as well, which we're wrapping up, which is soils and magnetics as well, looking to put them out to the market. And the last project that I'll sort of talk through in a bit of detail is ROCKLEY. So ROCKLEY is our copper gold porphyry project. So it's based in the ROCKLEY-GULGONG volcanics. So this is, we're looking here at phase 4 Ordovician Macquarie Arc rocks. So these are the same rock groups that host, Eucadia, North Parks. And what we're seeing here is a really classic porphyry magnetic signature. So you can see there, ROI1, this little donut-shaped area of mag destruction or mag low, with a central mag high, sort of coincided north-south fault, and also coincided with a discrete potassic anomaly. So I get a very encouraging, textbook sort of porphyry target there. Hasn't been drill tested, and it sits within an area that we've done rock chip, first pass rock chipping across it, because this tenement hasn't had this systematic work done on it. It was actually held by Alkane for several years, and they didn't do any exploration on this part of their ground in the Rockley Belt. So yeah, we're seeing widespread copper and gold mineralization throughout it. And so when you start to line up, just those ingredients there, you make for a pretty juicy looking porphyry target there. Importantly, stepping back into the broader district, we've got just it's showcasing itself, the Lachlan Fold Belt, ongoing success. Alkane 2019 with their BAULOORA discovery. I mentioned briefly Magmatic with their recent Corvette discovery. They put out some assays on the market today. So it just is a district that these massive copper deposits are continuing to be found, and relatively recently. We like Rockley, so does the government, and the Geological Survey in Kennex, who did a prospectivity report on the ground, and they determined this area, and noticeably that this one I've got shown here, to be the most prospective for porphyry copper gold mineralization in the entire ROCKLEY-GULGONG volcanics. And that's an important statement, or a strong statement to make, considering other regional explorers in the Rockley Belt include Alkane and Newmont, for example. So some major miners and explorers are here. We know that the belt hosts porphyries because down south, less than 10 kilometers, is the racecourse porphyry. Shallow, preserved close to surface, and they've got some fantastic recent drilling intercepts, including 920 meters at 0.3% copper. So they're expecting to grow that system. So we're very excited to sort of, generate particularly the Cobar and Rockley projects in parallel to the high impact work that we're doing at BAULOORA. So I'll sort of mention as well, go through the Fontenoy and Mulholland projects in the context of this strategic alliance that we've signed. So they, this was announced earlier in the year, and we've got a very polymetallic mix in our portfolio. So across Fontenoy and Mulholland, we've got a bit more of a focus on your battery and critical metals. So you're talking your nickels, there's a PGE element, tin, as well as copper and gold. But what we've done here is, we think a fantastic way for our shareholders to realize value through an alliance that allows a third party, Earth AI, to conduct exploration and drilling on our ground. We retain 100% ownership, and it's essentially a drill for reward. Well, they get an NSR if they're successful in defining an economic intersection. So that means money spent by Earth AI and the discovery exposure for our shareholders. Artificial intelligence is, it's a really changing face of the exploration industry. It's been around for some time, but it certainly comes to the forefront for a lot of companies, particularly the majors. Everyone is very much actively looking at artificial intelligence in terms of improving the time and the ways you can target mineral systems. That's just
sorry, Chris, just to interrupt, NSR, is that to do with the royalty?
Net smelter. Yeah, so that's if you head to production, that they would own they get a certain percentage of the net smelter return, depending on how much co-funding they put into the project. So
you still own the project 100%. They spend up to 4.5 mil, which allows you to figure out whether or not you want to keep going with that particular project. What happens after that?
Yeah, so if there's obviously a successful drill intercept that we consider that we want to take forward and drill it out, we'll develop the project and move it forward. But there is also optionality for Earth AI to buy the project off Legacy, and then the royalty would revert back to Legacy. So it's
that's clever.
Yeah, so it's sort of a way that, if there's success, that it's, meant to be a win-win for both parties, and, that the tenement and the prospect and the discovery will has the best opportunity to transition to a mine.
Great, clever.
They're the two projects. I won't run through them, but you can sort of see very large systems. And what we're really looking forward to seeing from Earth AI is hopefully drilling before the end of this year. But at Fontenoy there, targeting that particularly the copper and nickel prospects. But using that Earth AI machine learning to really drill down and identify the best looking targets in the district there. Exploration program. I mentioned BAULOORA, that we got results to be coming back shortly for soils and magnetics at Cobar and soils across BAULOORA. Plan to kick off drill campaigns at BAULOORA in Q4, most likely targeting November. We're also looking at Earth AI giving us an exploration update as well on what they've done to date in that quarter, as well as anticipation of drill testing as well at Fontenoy. Early next year, looking at some extensive drill campaigns focusing at BAULOORA. So a couple months down there of a few thousand meters of RC, predominantly RC drilling is sort of planned. And that's it, Kerry. In terms of investment proposition, that BAULOORA project, that district scale gold discovery opportunity really does make Legacy stand out amongst our peers, and we're very much leveraged to the exploration success across those projects. Talked about tier 1 jurisdiction, no sovereign risk, Aussie exploration right in the backyard of Sydney, and we're really focused on shareholder value, whether that be through discoveries getting made by us, but also discoveries potentially and hopefully getting made by companies like Earth AI on our ground. So
thanks, Chris. That was a very comprehensive, because you've got a lot going on there. 6 projects in total, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening and you would like to ask Chris a question, pop it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and I promise I will get to each and every one of them. But don't sit back and don't think that no question is dumb questions. All questions are good questions as far as I'm concerned, because I'm going to ask a couple for you, Chris, while they're waking up. And the first one is, all those projects, is BAULOORA more of a focus for you at the moment? Because Earth AI clearly are going to be doing the ROCKLEY-GULGONG project.
Yeah.
Is the focus on BAULOORA for the moment, or how do
for the moment, and probably for maybe a bit longer than just this moment, but we certainly, having 6 projects, as you mentioned, has allowed us to really ascertain, through the IPO funding, we've drill tested Harden, got some really good high grade hits there. But what we sort of have seen through our work at BAULOORA, which we kicked off sort of after the Harden campaigns, was just a significant opportunity, and it just so clearly stands out in our portfolio and amongst other sort of global epithermal projects, from the sheer scale and the textures and the grades, that it warrants the bulk, if not all, of our attention, just because it presents such a compelling investment case and such a compelling discovery opportunity. Kevin says, which company is your AI partner? Do you pay for their services? The company is called Earth AI. And if you were, so can I answer this, Chris? Because I think I know the answer to this, and you can come in. Earth AI is the partner, and they're funding up to 4.5 million in exploration on that tenement. Correct? Yeah, and it's a good question though from Kevin, because they've got a very different business model, Earth AI, to some other artificial intelligence explorers, where so it's quite unique, and it's really this alliance, outside sort of the majors like your BHPs and your Rios. At a junior level, we are really at the forefront there in terms of it. We don't pay Earth AI for their services. So some companies out there exist where you can actually pay them. The artificial intelligence company will review your projects, generate targets, crunch the numbers for you, and then give you a set of, essentially drill targets for you to go out and test. Earth AI is different, and the reason why we think it's such a great value for our shareholders is that they crunch the data, they generate the targets, and then they test the targets. So they need to put their money where their mouth is. And so it instead of Legacy paying to generate those targets, it's a different business model. The royalty aspect, though, that's their sort of kicker for their success. So it's a very incentive driven agreement. And it's not like a traditional joint venture where someone might spend millions of dollars drilling and find nothing, and at which case you've given away all your project. You've diluted at the project level. So we retain that 100% ownership of it. But yeah, no, it's a very good question.
But also, Chris, I think it's important to note as well that if you guys turn around and say, well, it looks like there's something there, but we're not going to take it forward, the royalty flips back to you and the ownership goes to Earth AI. So I think that's quite clever as well, because it's almost like who wants to do what, but I guess there's upside for shareholders of Legacy either way.
Either way, correct, yeah.
Alrighty. Next one is with those projects and the drilling that you've got coming on, the questions come in saying, will a raising be required in the near future? How's your funding?
We've certainly got sufficient funds to put in probably around another 5,000 meters of drilling at BAULOORA. The Earth AI takes off, allows us to reallocate funds there. In terms of a raising, there won't be one imminent. As I said, we're hoping to, get some drill meters on the ground at BAULOORA end of this year, early next year. So certainly we're a very lean company from an overhead perspective. It's only been 12 months since we've IPO'd, so we don't anticipate to be raising anytime soon. Yeah, we've got enough cash in the bank.
Fantastic. Chris, we have run out of time. I'm sorry, my friend. The presentation will be up on the website. It is a fantastic story. They're in the right ground, right area, surrounded by some of the big boys and looking for that discovery. And congratulations, Chris. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.